Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Tarot is Ridiculous, the podcast where I like to bring you informative content in the most ridiculous possible way. Because honestly, people are taking this stuff way too seriously. Not that we shouldn't, but you might be taking it a little too seriously. And today I am joined by none other than the beautiful, fabulous queen herself, Sally Rose. Welcome to Tarot is Ridiculous.
Hello, how are you?
So today we're going to be using Sally as our ridiculous victim. She has
Ooh.
no idea what's happening today. That's okay. Remember, this is a short show. It is only 15 minutes and we do it live. So all bloopers are meant to happen. That's just the way it runs here because this is ridiculous. All right, my darling, please introduce yourself and tell my listeners who you are.
Okay, I am Sally Rose Red Robinson. I have two monikers, Sally Rose and Rose Red, so some people might know me either way. I have done deck creation. I am also a tarot conference coordinator, producer, as well as sci-fi fantasy producer as well. So I've been doing all of these things for, oh gosh, it feels like 30 years, but who knows? It's probably not quite that long. But that's a little bit about me. And I will tell you that, yes, I am a Star Wars person, not a Star Trek person.
Ah, okay. Good to
Rebels
know.
all the way.
Rebels all the way. Oh, yes. So that means that you, along with all of us, cried when they did those generated images of Princess Leia after she had died. That was.
Yeah.
Did you cry? I cried.
Well, I cried after, because I watched Rogue One and she had just passed away like days before. And so, yeah, at the very end, when they do the whole, and this is dedicated to Carrie, and it's just like bawling in the theater. When you could do that, go into the theater, that is. But yes, no, and yes, we know she strangled on her bra straps by moonlight, if I'm saying that right. I'm probably not, but yeah.
If she was a tarot card, which tarot card would you give Carrie Fisher?
If I was giving Carrie Fisher, okay, Carrie Fisher or Princess Leia?
Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher, I would probably give her, it's a toss-up between the world and also the devil.
Oh, interesting. What would you
And
give Princess Leia?
Princess Leia, I would give the Empress or the High Priestess, depending on what film we're in.
That's a good distinction because I think like in the early films, she's definitely comes into the Empress, but in those later incarnations, she's definitely a High Priestess, isn't she?
Most definitely. But I was actually going to switch it for you because I was going to say High Priestess in the first few, only because she comes across so strong and we don't actually know who she is. But by the time we get to the newer quote unquote series, she has proven that she is mothering and caring and really is embracing that energy of the Empress. And whereas in the beginning, we think she's the High Priestess. She's very cold. She's very calculating. She's all of those things, mind you. But
Right.
that's how I see it, of course. And then the reason Carrie's the world is because she's done so many things through her life. And then the reason she's the devil is because she was always that kind of, as a human, that temptress to try these things, do these things, explore. And also she would be the person that would go in and be a script doctor and fix things. And it would be kind of like, and you could tell when she'd done it because there'd be little things that we would like, that's a Carrie thing. You could tell that she'd helped out, or she'd said something a slightly more snarky than you would expect a character to be. And then you'd go, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think if I was going to place her, I'd go Queen of Cups, Queen of Swords for the exact same reason. I
Yeah,
think
I
like
could see
the
that
Queen of
too.
Cups for the personal struggles that she went through, and I
Oh,
think the
yeah.
Queen of Swords for the professional, really like rebellious, this is how it's going to be, I'm not taking any bullshit nature of her and her personality.
100%.
So yes, and I think one of the great things about being a Star Wars fan too is going Carrie Fisher, baby Natalie Portman, Carrie Fisher. Like it's like I feel at some point we should have like grown up Natalie Portman come back. Like
Yes.
like this whole Padawan like Princess Leia thing. It's like I feel like we get these two really powerful women that set the tone for this entire series,
Yeah.
but like at some point I would love to see a much more mature Natalie Portman come back and do something. Like I don't know, like it feels like it needs to be done. We kind of had young Carrie Fisher, older Carrie Fisher. We've had baby Natalie Portman. I'd like to see an older Natalie Portman at some point in this world.
Well, and what would be really interesting is to see what happens after, because again, when we last see her in the movies, she's pregnant. She knows, and then she just I think she may not even know in the movies that she's pregnant with the twins at that point when episode 3 ends, because she just doesn't know who Anakin is, and it freaks her out. And we do get him, young Anakin, as young Vader, even in
Right.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I don't see why we couldn't get her, even though I know in the mythos she passes away when the children are born. I
Right.
believe, and I could be wrong. Star Wars fans remind me. It's been a little while since I've thought about this, but I know that the children are obviously sent off to different places. So if we should find out about again. There's 9 months there that we could find out what she was doing. And Natalie Portman could
Exactly.
totally come and play her. And
Exactly.
I
Exactly. Would bring it full circle. And I think this is a great segue into our next session where we're going to be talking about your favorite card because
Yay.
Vader
Yeah.
would embody this card, right? Right?
Well, yes. There is a Star Wars Majors Only based on the first series that came out through Kickstarter just recently, and Vader is my favorite card.
Which is
Sorry, Death. Death is my favorite card. It is. People are like, wait a minute, I thought it was the Lovers. I said it is that, but as I'm getting older, it is becoming more and more clear. Death is like, okay, I will. Yes, because the Lovers is my birth card, but Death is my favorite card because transition everywhere. Transition, that's all the things that you got to think about, as well as letting go of things. So you have to have death to have new rebirth.
right. And as I said, that's cool. I didn't know there was a Majors Only Star Wars card and they did put Darth Vader as Death. I was just like, it just seems like the logical choice to me that he would be this character of death because of all the different transformations he went through the series.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that this particular deck though is very limited. It only focuses on episode 1. So there's weird cards in the majors that you're kind of surprised about, but that one was not a surprise. Well, not a
So
surprise.
you have a deck with you today with a death card. I have
do.
Cirque death card. So let's hold these up and have a look at the different incarnations that we have of death here. Well, what's your deck there, Sally?
Oh, this is the This Might Hurt deck.
Oh.
Yeah. And Liminal 11 put out a reissue of it just recently recently within the last year. But I found it on Instagram from one of my other friends who had shared it. And I was like, okay, I need that. That needs to come home with me. But this death card, I mean, it's very similar to a Rider-Waite-Smith, but it's not completely. And that's kind of why I love it. This image per se. It's not quite the same, but it's close.
What's the most ridiculous? I think one of the things that we could bring into the ridiculous part of death is there is actually a podcast, isn't there, on the stupidest ways to die? I think if I remember rightly.
I think you're correct. Yes. I mean, again, there's a song, "Dumb Ways to Die," and then silly things that can happen, and it gets used on all kinds of memes. So yeah. And I think that there are some ridiculous death cards out there too. So, which is why I love them, because it's like, okay, how are you interpreting this? And that's one of the 2 cards I look at when I'm like, okay, do I buy this deck or not? Is what did you do with the death card? and the Lovers card only because it's my birth card, but the Death card is like the other card I go to because it is my favorite. And one of my favorite Death cards that I like is actually out of the Robin Wood deck, whereas the Death is in a red robe holding the flag with a giant Tudor rose on it, and in the forest. The end. You know?
Right, because the forest is very symbolic for death,
Mm-hmm.
because things die and are reborn in forests all the time.
The
If we
time.
were to pick a landscape for death, I think a forest is the perfect landscape for that.
Yeah.
And you know, the fungi are there constantly cleaning it up and all that kind of things. What is one of the most ridiculous elements of the death card?
Oh, one of
Like, what do you think is like
the
one of the weirdest, most ridiculous aspects of the death card?
I always, when I look at it, okay, so let me do image wise first. My first thought is, why is there a priest on it every time I see it? I don't understand that. I didn't understand why Pamela did that. I don't know why other people continue to do it, but hey, they do. But I also think one of the most ridiculous aspects is that it's ending, and that's all people focus on. It's like, oh, it's the end. It's awful. I'm like, no, you got to have things need to mulch and regenerate. So, yeah, death is natural. Come on, Dad, let's go. Let it go. To quote Elsa. But also,
Well, I
I think
love
that
this. Bring more songs into this. Stupid ways to die and let it go. Okay, so we're learning the death card today in the most ridiculous way. Go get those 2 songs. These are your most important songs for this card.
well, actually, no, the other song, because
No? Okay.
there's one more, which is Moon Shadow, works
Oh,
for this. And why do you say that? Why do I say that? Is because if you
yeah.
look in a traditional, air
Rider
quotes,
Waite Smith
death
deck.
card,
Yeah.
yeah, you'll see right here where my finger is pointing. I'm gonna be a little
Uh-huh.
closer. See that rising in the background there?
Oh, the
That
rising moon.
It is the rising moon or the rising sun, depending. So you could also do House of the Rising Sun, if we're going to throw music at it. Uh,
Yeah.
but the other thing is, it's the moon card way, way away. So again, Moon Shadow would work if you're a Cat Stevens fan. House of the Rising Sun, if you really want to talk about that, connecting those things to the death card. Why not? Not just Death Cab for Cutie songs, even though that's good too. Hey, I'm the music girl. I will tell you songs. And like I'm certain that there are super, death comes to all, all that stuff. But what about happy death songs?
Yeah, true.
You
True.
know?
Are there happy death
What
songs?
uh I'm certain that there are. My brain, of course, has now forgotten them the moment I say it, and I'll come up with something funny. But I still think there is joy that can be found in this, even though it's dark. And I don't know if that's just
Yes.
my little gothy heart saying that, or if it's, but I know that for me, death is not a negative. It's just not.
Exactly. And I think that's probably one of the reasons, like every time I sit down to create a deck, I think about the other elements that go with death, because one of the things I think is ridiculous is people being scared of this card,
Yeah, I'm going to
right?
agree with that. Yeah.
So I think it is a little ridiculous to be scared of images printed on paper, right? And it's like it's at the end of the day, this thing is like a little
It's just a
card.
piece of paper. Yeah.
It's just a piece of paper, and seeing it is not an omen that anything bad necessarily is going to happen.
My
And
favorite time that it has come up, I will tell you, is when I do high school grad nights, and the death card comes up multiple times because I don't cleanse my deck for those events because, well, they're high schoolers. They need to see the real world, and they all freak out. And I'm like, but you just ended school, so there's your death right there. You're now starting something fresh, and they're like, oh, dude, whoa, and I'm like, blow me your mind, kid. But yeah.
So yeah, it is one of these things where I want to focus on things that are other than death. So when I was sitting down and thinking about the death card, oh, I can never remember where the bloody hell my camera is. When I was thinking
That's
about the
right.
card for Cirque,
Yeah.
and I wanted to keep the whole idea of the magic and the illusion going, I was like, one of the greatest elements of death is it's a disappearing act. Like, where
Mhm.
do we go? what happens? That's magic, right?
Yeah.
So if you believe in an afterlife, or you believe that like we don't actually go anywhere and we're all just popping in and out of physical bodies, I thought doing this whole disappearing thing on the death card would be perfect, because it does really tie into that. Death is a magic trick.
Yeah, it's true. It is very true. And how many people do we know that have faked their deaths? Speaking of Virginia Woolf. Okay. Just saying.
Right. It is. Death is a magic trick. Like, so if you take nothing away from this, death has a musical number. It is definitely embedded in the Star Wars mythology,
Yep.
and it is the ultimate magic trick.
I like it.
Now, we are just about out of time, dear. What would you like to know us to know about you, what you're doing right now, what you're involved in, and how can we get more of you?
You can find me behind a reg desk or a front desk at conventions near you. The Reader Studio is coming up in April. It's the end of April. Then there's Newts in, Reader Studio in April in New York. Let me be more specific. This is the coming back from having closed during 2020 and the
Yes.
like. So we're very excited about that. And it starts on a Thursday, ends on a Sunday, 4 days of tarot goodness with some amazing speakers, and readerstudio.com. Then there's in Portland in beginning of September, there's the Northwest Tarot Symposium, and very excited about that. And then in the middle of all of that wonderful goodness, I will be doing sci-fi convention called BayCon in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I'm the vice chair, and our theme this year is pure imagination. So think Willy Wonka and crazy and fun and all of those things. Where you can find me in general on Instagram is Rose Red Tarot. On Facebook, it's Sally Rose Red Robinson or Rose Red Robinson. Both of them. I have two. Yes, they are both me, I promise. And yeah, that's the good and easy. And I do have a website, roseredtarot.com.
And you will find those links in the show notes under this video. If you're watching it on YouTube, if you're watching it on Facebook, they'll be above the video, because that's what Facebook does. And of course, they may not be there right this second, but they will be there.
Of course.
Thank you so much for coming and being with us today. I had no idea that this show was going to go in this direction. It was fabulous. You're
Fantastic.
a blast. I'm going to have you back at some point, and we're going to have to spend more time together. All right, everyone. That was our show for this week. Tarot is ridiculous. I hope you got something out of our conversation and you learned something different about the death card, which is what we talked about today. We didn't get to any other cards because we're having too much fun with death, the ultimate magic trick. Thank you, everyone. See you next week. Bye for now.
Bye.